Aloha, I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and I conduct work-life video interviews with career professionals that become an all-intuitive conversation. Aloha, I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and as an all intuitive executive and life coach, I encourage people to live smart and ascend to new levels of success in their work and their life. Today, I have the pleasure of connecting with Mike. So, Mike and I, unlike my other guests, have history. We have worked together in past networking events, projects, companies, and all those different things. So, but Mike wanted to come on to All Intuitive Conversation. So let's go ahead and bring him to the screen. Aloha, Mike.
Aloha, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am growing forward daily.
What's that mean? Growing forward daily.
Means every day is a lesson, every day is a learning experience, every day is living life to the fullest with everything that's within it. And just accepting things for exactly what they are and taking a step back and observing the observation.
Okay. Dag, you're fast already. So tell me, what's the lesson that you learned yesterday, Mike?
That I need to curtail the way that I express my emotions to my children because I see the impact that it is having on them to feel free to do the same. As an adult, I'm able to own it, be accountable, apologize, and own my mistake. As a child, one of my children, Thomas, who went through a lot of trauma, he wasn't willing to own the mistake until this morning. So I learned that I need to express myself in different ways.
Okay. So right away, you already had a card that flipped out, which was the Empress. But coming up with the Empress, she's holding this whole baby mothering kind of effect, which connects to children. The next card that immediately came out was the Ten of Cups, but it's all about this whole rainbow and this family, right? So when you talk about expressing yourself, tell me more.
So one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is processing anger for me. Noopy, processing anger for me, hey Shar, is something that I always stifled, and it always held me back because I didn't have the capacity or bandwidth to be able to process it. So I would literally bury it and then just one day just like snap, right? And that's how I lived most of my life. Over these last couple of years, it's transitioned to screaming at the top of my lungs, letting it all out real quick, and then going and being accountable and explaining why I did that. So it is a healthier way of doing it, and there's a level of communication. But my son last night, who got extremely triggered and has been extremely stressed out because it's been over 7 months since he's been in school, and now we're getting close to a resolution with the lawsuit closing and all that stuff, and being ruled in our favor and him getting placed. With all those things coming to an end now, he's getting extremely anxious, nervous, and excited as well, but those feelings feel the same for a 10-year-old, right? So he screamed last night, but then he kept screaming last night. And he took it out on Sid, the 5-year-old, and he directed it all towards her. When I do it, I just let it out, right? Like almost like dragon breathing, which is a shamanistic practice. And he just directed it, right? So I explained to him, once I calmed him down over the course of it took about an hour to bring him back down. We sat down, we talked, we discussed what emotions he was going through and everything else. And then he went and apologized to Sid. The problem was he didn't realize it until this morning, and Sid wasn't very open to the apology because she was still in a very triggered state.
Okay. So the next card that had came out was talking about the trigger statement. Literally says, why did this happen to me? True statement, how did this happen for me? It says, know that you are the star of your own life, my dear. You are the lead and the audience is here for you. The next one that came out, and that was the theme of presence. The next one that came out has the theme of grace. And the trigger statement says, what do they have that I don't? True statement, we are all special. It says, allow your inner critic to be silenced as you find the perfection in yourself and those around you. So I'm going to go back because you were saying, like, you would be angry and upset and you were just kind of just shouted out in general and not to someone in particular. And that sounded like you was a little frustrated with Thomas because it was like he didn't see it right away and took it out onto the younger person, and he apologized. So I'm going to go back to you. Have you received an apology?
There's many apologies I'll probably never receive. And I'm okay with that also. But also, I'm an adult and I can process and release that, right? Not everybody's ready to give or even understands how to give an apology. For years, I had no clue.
Yeah. So tell me about that frustration, though, that frustration that you have with Thomas being young and not having a clue, but then you got all the way up to adulthood and said that you didn't have a clue. So what is it about that frustration? Was it really the frustration that you didn't want Thomas to get to an adult and not have a clue or learn that lesson quicker? What was that?
The frustration was that he targeted it at Sid. That was the frustration. It's okay to express yourself in this house. It's fine. Slam doors, scream, do whatever you need to do. But don't target it at anyone else to intimidate or bully based on your triggers, which the triggers from his abuse. Now, here's the other side of this. This morning, he came up to me, he gave me a hug, and he said, I'm really sorry about last night. I understand that I shouldn't have taken out on Sid. Right? So, obviously, it was a teaching moment for both of us. It was a lesson for both of us. And I learned a ton. Again, I learned about his capacity also. Right? And a tremendous amount of respect for his capacity to be able to understand and process and release it. Right? He had trouble sleeping last night and he just sat with himself and he didn't hurt anything. Anyone hurt himself. He didn't go into any of the patterns that he used to have. So there's enormous growth there. And, I guess I'm doing decent as a parent. So, I'll just roll with it, right? Like, I mean, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. Everyone makes tons of mistakes every day. The only difference is being self-aware and being accountable to yourself and those that you harm in the process.
Okay. So, Mike, are you accountable to yourself?
Most days.
Do you still yell at yourself? Get angry and frustrated with yourself?
Some days. Not as often as I used to.
Tell me more about that.
I used to blame and shame myself, right? A ton. And in turn trigger myself and then in turn create a spiral. What I've learned to do is pause, take a step, do really deep breathing, slow myself down, go into a quasi-meditative state and really observe the observation of my actions throughout that moment, learning to have grace with myself. Never was good at that, but I'm learning to. And then doing journal prompts to really separate it so that I can process and learn from each circumstance.
Okay. All right. So, as I told you before, Mike and I we have a history. We're connected and know about each other. I had specifically went to my shamanic deck, which you also mentioned that word shamanic, and the word that came out was tobacco.
Love it. It's the only vice I have left. I love it.
So here's what it said.
All the signs point to keeping it.
So here's what it says about tobacco. It says, in its purest form, tobacco is a sacred herb that is smoked, not inhaled, or offered in prayer during a sacred ceremony. Find organic tobacco and employ it as an offering in any sacred ceremony you enact. Your prayers are amplified when you are offered this sacred herb. So, because I can tell there have been lots of calls that you are smoking cigarettes and
Hmm.
smoking this tobacco, right?
I
And you
always show up
call,
as me.
yes,
I just show up as myself.
and you call it this vice.
Hmm.
How long have you had it?
Man, I started smoking at 11, and then I quit for 3 years, and then I've been smoking ever since. Oh no, I quit for a year when I moved back to Florida after leaving my ex-wife, and
And
then I started again once I found out about the abuse.
so when you do it, what do you feel?
It grounds me. I feel very grounded and connected to Earth. Never mind the extra 300 chemicals. My body seems to release those pretty well because my lungs are clear as a 10-year-old. But like they've been checked, they're perfect. There's no issues with the lungs. That's not going to be what's killing me. I'm going to trip and fall and roll downstairs and land on a pencil. But that's just life. We've got to be humorous.
Mm,
It really grounds me and brings me back down because I spend so much time in my higher self and my spiritual self
mm-hmm.
that sometimes I feel very disconnected from this plane. So for me, the smoking really brings me back down to a connection to Earth.
Okay. So it brings you down to the connection of Earth.
I mean, I can smoke dirt; it just wouldn't be as fun.
Okay, smoking the dirt. All right. It's funny because the next card that just came out here is this whole Queen of Swords, right? And the second word on here is humorous. Judgmental, releasing situations or people that no longer serve you, seeing the humor in difficult situations, so focusing on career, divorce, or unmarried individuals. Would that be you?
Probably, I would assume. I mean, I'm divorced, I'm unmarried, and I'm single, so I feel like I fit all of those, right? And I'm learning grace, right, with myself. It's been a very difficult process because of all the programming and everything I went through my life. And
Yep.
my kids, are my greatest teachers, right? And I've every day by watching their triggers, how they interact, react, and everything else, it teaches me how I act and react and interact. And what's
Yes.
funny is one of the last things my father told me before he died a few months ago, he looked at me and he goes, I have seen this enormous shift and change in you, but the only person that you don't have it with is your sister. And I actually spent a week or 2 weeks journaling and writing it out and doing the self-forgiveness letters and really understanding what that circumstance was all about. And I really got to the bottom of it, and I've really done a lot of work around it. And I think right now we have the best relationship we've ever had.
Mm.
Um, and I guess I just do well through adversity. So,
Hmm.
you know, it seems to be where I excel.
So the crystal that I had chosen today, when I was asking Emmanuel to kind of connect me, was the chevron amethyst.
Hmm.
This is what
Love
it
it.
looks like. And this is what it says about it. It says enhances peace, relaxation, self-discovery, lessens resistance to change, enhances intuition, calms rage, frustration, irritation, removes veil that blocks hidden meetings, brings courage, strength, and repels negativity. So based off kind of some of the things that we've already like talked about, like this seems to really be kind of connecting um, with some of the experiences that you have. So the next question that's coming is, what would peace look like for Mike?
My life today, I can honestly say that I am living in peace. I am tremendously at peace, and I'm able to sit back and really observe the observation to the best that I've ever done in this life. This is if I'm not at peace, then I'm the closest that I've ever been, and this is my greatest understanding of it.
Hmm.
I'm able to sit down and just roll with anything and everything. I'm able to allow everything to be whatever it is.
Hmm.
Nothing really impacts me at my core. I mean, my father passing away, giving myself, 4 to 6 weeks of real hardcore grieving and journaling and writing it out and riding that initial wave. I know it comes back in waves from time to time, but overall, I'm really at peace, and I have never felt this much at peace ever.
Hmm.
And amethyst, by the way, is my favorite stone. It's one that I've had around me since I was about
Well,
12 years old.
of course it is, Mike. Of course.
Unfortunately, they break. Unfortunately, they shatter around me, so they don't last
Oh.
long.
Hmm. Okay. Well, you know the crystals they take on the embodiments, and if they're taking on all your kind of your energy, eventually they will
Yeah,
shatter. And that's
yeah.
why I say I I hear you saying that you are the most peaceful you have been, but I'm not. There's still something else, Mike.
Still something else. So let's dig into that. What is it? What are your cards saying? Take another
Mm.
card. Let's see. Let's go there.
So there's still something else. So the next one that came out talked about series of star blessings. Yes, proceed, be seen, push through. So that's why I said there's something else. Um, what's really frustrating you today?
I think the most frustrating thing to me today is still this thing with my son and the lawsuit. Even though that they've acknowledged things, they're still dragging out the process and using every single the longest time window that they can in this process. And he's been home now for 7 straight months. The last time he went to physical school was March 28th. They've tried harassing me, intimidating me, threatening jail time, threatening fines and fees. Every couple months, they start sending notices to the house again, even though there's an active lawsuit, and no department talks to the other. The
What
lack
if
of
I?
communication replicates a few past instances in my life,
Yeah.
so it's probably a trigger.
What if I told you your life does not have to be a struggle?
I feel like you've said that for the last 3 years, and in many ways, it's not like it used to be. In some ways, it is, right? Most ways, it's not anymore.
Mhm.
Most now, there's still the few little things, the school thing, the my son not feeling heard, valued, or seen, and me doing the best I can to do for him what was never done for me,
Mhm.
right? And stand up against all resistance and attempts and attacks to do the right thing for him.
So we're going back here.
A
When you
fishing pole.
say
Is that a fishing pole?
no, it's a sword.
Oh, it's a sword. Okay.
It's edgy. It is, and that is something as I talked about. Is this you? And we talked about earlier that it was like, yeah, some of these things are me, right? A sword is very precise and precision, and it could be like you said, you're talking about standing up, but at the same time, she is at peace. She is like sitting, and there's even a butterfly on this sword. Um, so
For
we're
me,
gonna.
it's been deer. It's been deer, not butterflies. The
Uh,
last 3 weeks, there's been deer around me every day, every single day. They stop mid running and just sit there and stare at me for a good 30, 40 seconds. It's really entertaining, actually.
oh my gosh, Mike.
It is
So
me. You didn't think this was going to be an easy one, did you?
no, but you evidently, I guess you were tapping. Here's the thing: what amazed me last night. We were driving to go to. We live in the city, and we were driving in Chick-fil-A, and then there was this. It's probably about 5 o'clock, and there was a blue lights, and we're thinking, oh, it's an accident. Mind you, this is right in front of Chick-fil-A and across the street from the mall, so it's all city, and there is this light there. I mean, car, police car, and the lights are just going right. And we're like, well, where's the cars? So we get up there. Someone
A
hit a
deer.
deer
Mm-hmm.
and there was no car. Like, well, where's the car? They hit it. There was no car. It was just the deer. And we were like, oh my goodness. In the middle of the city, across the street from the mall, right outside, like you're turning out of, Chick-fil-A, and it's just like laying there. So by time we go around to the Chick-fil-A line, we come back in order, the deer was gone. And so was the police car. But that image stuck. And unfortunately, there was still the blood from the deer was still on the street. And my kids had like noticed that, like, they don't clean up completely. So it was like this still like this residue, like they were still the deer was still there, the evidence was still present. So I say that to say you're talking about deer and the whole connection and wilderness, and it just seemed really out of place because, like, why would a deer be here in the middle of the day, 5 o'clock rush hour, and they just kind of go out and just, hey, this is where my territory used to been, or I'm just, and they had, like, as my husband says, they had like various points on it, so it wasn't a baby deer, so this deer has done this many times before. So this situation with your son in the school, and you've been dealing with this for a long time, and the fact that you're saying 7 months, so seven, is a number of completion. It is divine spiritual meaning, right? So how can you, of having grace and having the presence in this situation, how can you have peace, still advocating for your son, but how can you bring peace in that situation?
Every time I find peace with it, another trigger comes up, another email, another notice, another call that we're going to go after you in court for truancy. We're going to put you in jail. We're going to do $50,000 in fines, all these crazy things, right? And that has a short-term impact on me and takes me out of that space. And it just frustrates me. I know it's all going to be okay. I know it's all going to work out exactly as it's meant to. I know that, right? I just know. And it's just taking its time, and they're dragging the timeline out to try and intimidate me and harass me to back down.
So that Emmanuel works to where when you have this lesson to learn in your life, it will keep bringing that whole situation up until you learn that lesson. You know that, right? And you know that it's triggering you. So how can you handle this situation differently to learn that lesson?
Shut off my phone, disconnect my email, don't answer any more text messages. No, that's not the answer.
No.
Find a new escapism other than smoking. No, that's not the answer either. Run for the school board. They're looking for another director. Thought about that. I've gotten 4 emails about it, ironically.
That's not ironically.
No, there's synchronicities there. I just am contemplating time and what the hours involved in, and what would I do with my other, my 3 kids during that period.
So let's explore that, because you brought it up for a reason.
Sure, I did. I have no doubt that I did.
Thomas is not the only kid like this.
I know. I say it all the time that it's a system-wide systemic issue. Their answer was to drug him and drag him in school and keep him numb until he was out of their system, which in my mind then creates the reason that there's so many school shootings and everything else going on. Because when all that pain rushes to the surface and children don't know how to process it, they become very pain-driven adults that have 0 life value. And that's why they're able to hurt others.
So it goes to the trigger statement that we already pulled out. What do they have that I don't?
Who, the board of director members? Maybe one person in the county that actually likes them. I don't know. I've talked to every department in this county.
So you talked to every department. You've gone through the situations. You keep getting an email. You've gone through all these various experiences. So what's keeping you from applying?
Time. I don't know if I have the time, and I don't know if they do evening meetings. What am I doing with my 3 kids? Right. So granted, making a new precedent and bringing your children to the school district board of directors meetings could really show a point, couldn't it? Remind everybody why they're really there. What's my excuse now? Absolutely nothing. That I'm doing this on live, and I guess I'm holding myself back from it because I like being in the shadows, not in the forefront. And we've had that discussion many times.
Yes, we have.
Little by little, I'm coming out of the shadows. Little by little, I am transitioning into a forefront. Maybe it's time. I don't know.
But don't you? Theme, connection, trigger statement. It's too much. True statement. I'm grounded in my body. Just right under your whole tobacco card, what you're talking about, the things that ground you. Use your empathic abilities to connect with others. Discern the information you receive and do not take on what is not your own. I'm listening.
So am I. Um, what's today's date?
The 21st.
The 24th is the last day to apply. That's the email I was just looking for. I guess I know what I'm doing this weekend.
You do.
It's remarkable that no matter where we are, no matter what point we're at, no matter in this journey, and we all know what we need to do. It's amazing sometimes if we actually choose to do it or not. So it's interesting to me. I guess it's time to take that next step, and I'm going to. So I guess I'm going to apply this weekend.
So be it.
Yeah. Maybe it's what they need. Maybe it's what I need.
Comes back to what did they have that I didn't, and that was an advocate. So when they'll be able to nurture all the way back to the very beginning, to nurture and care. And the thing is, if you get on it, wonderful. If not, that's as well too. But this is something that you need to do. Quit making all the excuses. What am I going to do with my kids? All of that will be resolved if this is what your next step in this path is supposed to be. But release your self-stoppingness from applying, because you're going to make an excuse. Like I said, there's no more hiding.
Yeah, I mean, imagine this is what I talk to my lawyer about all the time is imagine the parents that either don't have the time or knowledge to do what I'm doing for my son and aren't willing to take the risks that I've taken for my son because I lost 90% of my income the first 7 months of this year. I was almost getting evicted. I was almost getting my car repoed. I was almost losing every single thing in my life. I was months behind on preschool for Sid because I just made him my first priority and dropped everything else. And I was willing to risk it, lose it all. But how many parents are willing to do that while getting intimidated and harassed that we're going to take you to court and put you in jail potentially and give you thousands of dollars in fines? So how many parents give in and sedate their children and send them to school and teach them to be emotionally stifled and not process or feel anything? Yeah, I guess there's a reason.
Oh, okay. Of course there is. Well, thank you, everyone, as we've had this all intuitive conversation with Mike today, to reveal what it is that he just needed to release in order to encourage him to live smart so he can ascend to new levels of success in his work, in his life. I'm Felicia Miller Johnson. I'm an all intuitive executive and life coach. Reach out to me if you're interested in being a guest and or having your own session with me as well. So until we meet again next week for another episode of All Intuitive Conversation.